Listen up. This world isn't always sunshine and respect. Sometimes it throws you into the pit with people who don't want the best for you. They drain your energy, manipulate your kindness, and feed off your weakness. But here's the truth. Toxic people only have power over you when you give them access to your peace. This is your moment to take that power back. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. Let's break it down 8 key ways to deal with toxic people and reclaim your strength. Listen closely. The first step in dealing with toxic people is not to fight them, fix them, or even avoid them. It's to recognize them. Because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge, and you can't defend what you don't see coming. Toxic people are not always obvious. They don't come wearing devil horns. Sometimes they're wrapped in charm. They smile in your face, call you bro or sis, ask how you're doing, but deep down their energy is cold. Their words might sound sweet, but their tone is bitter. They celebrate your success to your face, then mock it behind your back. And if you ignore the signs, they'll slowly poison your peace and make you question your worth. Here's the brutal truth. Not everyone who's close to you is for you. Some people sit at your table just to watch you starve. They stay close to study your weaknesses, and the longer you deny the poison, the deeper it runs. Maybe it's that friend who always turns the conversation back to themselves. You're going through something. Somehow, they're going through worse. You gotta win. They talk about what you should have done better. And they wrap it all up in just being honest. That's not honesty. That's envy. That's subtle sabotage dressed as concern. Or maybe it's someone in your own family that hurts even more. The uncle who always mocks your dreams. The cousin who only calls when they need something. The sibling who makes everything a competition, and society tells you, but they're blood. Let me tell you something. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Recognizing toxicity is an act of self-love, and it's not always easy. Why? Because your heart gets in the way. You remember the good times. You hope they'll change. You tell yourself, maybe it's just me. And that's exactly what they want, to keep you doubting so you stay silent. Let me share a true story. There was a young woman, let's call her Ayesha. She had a best friend since childhood. They did everything together, school, college, jobs. But every time Ayesha tried to level up, her friend made her feel guilty. Oh, you're too good for us now. You changed. Must be nice to have everything easy. At first, Ayesha ignored it. She thought, she's just joking. But deep down, those words started to sting. Ayesha started shrinking herself just to stay liked. And then one day she saw clearly this wasn't friendship. This was fear disguised as love. So she cut ties. It hurt. But guess what? She started to rise. Her business grew. Her confidence exploded, and that noise gone. Recognizing the poison doesn't mean you're cruel. It means you're courageous. You're choosing your peace over fake peace. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here are some classic signs you're dealing with a toxic person. You feel drained after interacting with them. They always play the victim. They gaslight you, twist your words, and make you feel crazy. They never celebrate your wins. They trip you into doing things their way. You feel like you're walking on eggshells around them. If any of that feels familiar, take it seriously. Stop justifying. Stop making excuses. Stop saying, but they've been in my life for years. Time served does not equal loyalty earned. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you're too emotionally tied to see clearly. You've got to step back, observe, ask yourself, do they pour into me or pull from me? Do they support me or secretly compete? Do I feel safe around them, or do I always have to shrink to keep the peace? And when you get the answer, don't look away. Recognizing a toxic person is not about labeling people as bad. It's about protecting your peace. It's about taking inventory of who's helping you grow and who's slowly choking your roots. You can't build a powerful life surrounded by poison. So be bold, be honest, rip the blindfold off, because once you recognize the poison, you take the first step toward healing, toward power, toward freedom. And that's when you become unstoppable. Let's make one thing clear. You are not a doormat. You weren't put on this earth to please everybody, to tolerate disrespect, or to shrink yourself so others can feel tall. You were built with purpose, fire, and dignity. But toxic people, they don't care about that. They only care about one thing: access. They want access to your mind, your emotions, your time, your kindness. They want to drain you, control you, manipulate you. And if you don't draw the line, they'll cross it again and again until you're running on empty. That's why you've got to set boundaries like your life depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you something about toxic people. They hate boundaries. Boundaries make them uncomfortable because they can't control you anymore. They'll guilt trip you. You've changed. You're selfish. You don't care about me. But that's not truth. That's manipulation. The moment you put up a wall, they feel the power shift, and they panic. But you hold the pen now. You write the rules, and one of those rules is this: no one gets unlimited access to me. Here's what a boundary looks like. I won't allow you to speak to me with disrespect. I'm not available for emotional dumping right now. My time is valuable. If you can't respect it, you lose it. If you continue to cross this line, I'll have to walk away. Sounds harsh, maybe to someone who's used to walking over you, but to someone who respects you, it sounds like strength. Let's take a real-world story. There's a young man named Hamza. In his early 20s, he was always the yes guy. Whenever his friends needed something, he was there, even if it meant skipping sleep, missing deadlines, or sacrificing his own needs. He thought saying yes made him a good friend, but over time he realized he wasn't surrounded by friends. He was surrounded by users. The day he started saying no, they started disappearing, not gradually, immediately. And though it hurt, it also healed him, because sometimes when you set a boundary, the people who leave are the ones who were never truly with you. That's not loss, that's clarity. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls that shut people out. It's about putting gates in place and only giving keys to those who have earned it. You don't owe everyone your energy. You don't have to pick every call, reply to every message, or agree to every favor. Your mental health matters, your time matters, and if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. Now listen, setting boundaries won't be easy at first, especially if you've been a people pleaser your whole life. The first time you say no, your heart might race. You might feel guilty. You'll second guess yourself, but push through it, because on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. Think of it like going to the gym. The first few workouts hurt. Your muscles scream, but you keep showing up, and one day you wake up stronger. It's the same with boundaries. The more you practice, the stronger you get. One no at a time. One truth at a time. One bold move at a time. Even the most successful people in the world had to set boundaries to rise. Athletes, CEO, artists. They don't let just anyone into their circle. Why? Because they know energy is contagious. And toxic energy is like a virus. It spreads fast and kills dreams. So they protect their space like a lion guards its den. And you've got to do the same. Let me leave you with this. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you allow disrespect, expect more of it. If you stand firm, they learn real quick. They can't play with you like that anymore, so draw the line loud, clear, unshakable. Set boundaries that scream, I love myself too much to be mistreated. Because once you do that, you become untouchable. Let me say this loud and clear, so it sinks deep into your bones. You are not a rehab center for broken people who don't want to heal. So many strong, good-hearted people like you, fall into this trap. You see the pain behind their anger, you see the wounds beneath their cruelty, and your instinct to fix them, to save them, you think, if I just love them harder, if I just stay patient, maybe they'll change. But here's the truth that will set you free. You can't heal someone who enjoys being sick. You can't pull someone out of the darkness if they're committed to staying there, and trying to save them, that'll just drown you too. Toxic people are master manipulators. They know how to play the victim. One moment they'll insult you, the next they'll cry for help. One day they'll ghost you, and then come back saying, you're the only one who understands me. It's a vicious cycle, and every time you give in, they tighten the chains. Here's the cycle most people get stuck in. They hurt you. You confront them. They apologize. or act like nothing happened. You forgive them, hoping they'll change. They hurt you again and again and again. That's not love. That's emotional warfare. Let me hit you with a real life example. A young woman named Sarah dated a guy who was emotionally toxic. He cheated, lied, disrespected her. But every time she tried to leave, he broke down. Told her he needed help, said he was broken, and she was the only one who made him better. She stayed. For years, she thought her love could heal him, but in reality, it was killing her. She lost her confidence. She stopped chasing her dreams. She forgot who she was. One day, she finally had enough. She realized loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. She walked away, and the same man who couldn't live without her found someone new in 2 weeks, because it was never about healing. It was always about control. Listen to me, Jenny. You are not responsible for someone else's healing. Read that again. You are not their therapist. You are not their savior. You are not a repair shop for broken souls who keep smashing everything you rebuild. There's a difference between supporting someone and saving someone. You can encourage, but you can't carry. You can guide, but you can't drag them uphill. You want to help someone grow. Start with yourself. Be the example. Show what self-respect looks like. Show what boundaries look like. Show what healing looks like. And if they're truly ready, they'll rise on their own. But if not, let them go. But what if I leave and they fall apart? That's not your fault. That's their journey. You didn't break them. You don't have to fix them. But what if no one else helps them? Maybe that's what they need to hit rock bottom. Sometimes people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. That's not cruelty. That's reality, and here's the most painful part to accept. Some people only get better at pretending. They don't grow. They just learn new ways to keep you hooked. That's why you need to love yourself enough to walk away. Even if they cry, even if they beg, even if they swear they'll change, because real change doesn't come from pressure. It comes from within, and if they truly loved you, they'd never put you in a position where you had to fix them in the first place. So here's your power move. Let go of the fixer identity. Save that energy for you, for your goals, your healing, your future, because when you stop fixing others, you start fixing your own life. Let me leave you with this. You weren't born to be someone's emotional punching bag. You weren't born to babysit grown adults who refuse to grow. You were born to rise, to lead, to live with purpose, and that means cutting loose the people who want you stuck. The moment you stop trying to fix toxic people is the moment you reclaim your power. And Jenny, when you walk in that power, nothing can stop you. Let me tell you something that will change the way you protect your energy forever. Stop wasting your breath explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because here's the truth. Some people don't want to understand you. They don't want clarity. They don't want peace. They want power. They want to keep you dancing in circles, defending your decisions, proving your worth, and chasing their validation like it's oxygen. And the more you explain yourself to them, the more power you give away. You've probably been there. You tell someone how they hurt you, and instead of listening, they flip it on you. Oh, now you're the victim. You're too sensitive. I was just joking. You always make a big deal out of nothing. Sound familiar? This isn't communication. This is emotional warfare. It's not about resolving anything. It's about control. They gaslight you, twist your words, spin the story until you start to question yourself. And the more you try to explain, the more tangled it gets. Let me give you a real-world example. A guy named Rehan worked under a toxic boss. Every time he suggested a better way to do things, his boss shot him down. Not because Rehan was wrong, but because his boss felt threatened. When Rehan tried to explain his intentions, he was labeled difficult, rebellious, and not a team player. No matter how calmly or logically he spoke, he was always the villain in their narrative. So what did Rehan do? He stopped talking and started showing. He did his work with excellence. He kept receipts. He built respect in the team. And eventually, when the truth caught up to his boss, Rehan walked into a better job, with his dignity intact. That's the power of silence. Here's the hard truth. The people who truly care about you won't need 20 paragraphs to understand one sentence. They won't make you repeat yourself 10 times. They won't twist your intentions just to feel superior. Toxic people use confusion as a weapon. They pretend they don't understand you so they can keep you off balance, because as long as you're explaining yourself, you're not standing in your power, and that's what they fear most. Look, Janny, not everyone deserves access to your truth. Not everyone is entitled to your why. Not everyone should get a front row seat to your emotional process. When someone constantly misinterprets you, when they intentionally ignore your boundaries, when every conversation becomes a courtroom where you're always on trial, it's time to walk away from the witness stand and stop defending who you are. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to explain why you walked away from drama, why you put yourself first, why you cut ties with fake friends, why you finally said enough is enough. Because if they were really listening, they would have understood the first time. And if they weren't, then 100 more explanations won't change a thing. Let me give you something practical here. When someone tries to bait you into explaining yourself again and again, say this: I've already shared how I feel. If that's not enough, this conversation isn't worth continuing. Short, firm, done, no yelling, no begging, just power. And the people who respect you, they'll hear you the first time. They'll take a moment, process it, maybe even admit where they were wrong. That's what healthy communication looks like. But toxic people, they're addicted to the argument. They don't want peace. They want chaos wrapped in conversation. So, stop giving them the satisfaction of keeping you on the defense. Your life is not a courtroom. Your voice is not a debate. Your soul is not a negotiation. There's power in walking away. There's strength in silence. There's clarity in stillness. You're not weak for refusing to argue. You're wise for refusing to waste your energy. You want to know what really shuts down a toxic person. Not screaming, not fighting, not long explanations. Just this: I know who I am. I don't need you to understand it. That's the kind of peace they can't shake. That's the kind of strength they can't manipulate. So from today forward, repeat this to yourself: I am not here to be understood by the wrong people. I am here to be respected by the right ones. You've got nothing to prove. Say less, move smarter, and protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it absolutely does. Here's a truth most people never want to admit: toxic people only have power over you through your unhealed wounds. They poke the pain you've buried. They twist the insecurities you've hidden. They whisper into the scars you pretend aren't there, and before you know it, you're triggered, reactive, and under their control. Let me break this down. Toxic people don't win because they're smart. They win because they're strategic. They study you. They find your weak spots. They figure out what makes you explode, shut down, cry, beg, overthink, and then they use that to keep you small. But what happens when those triggers no longer exist? What happens when the buttons they used to press are no longer there? They lose control. And that, Janny, is when you take your power back. Let me tell you a real story. There was a man named Samir, smart, driven, kind, but he had one trigger: he always needed to be understood. He hated being misunderstood, hated being seen as the bad guy. And guess what? Every toxic person in his life sensed that. His ex used it against him. His boss used it against him. His own brother used it against him. Every time there was a conflict, they'd twist the story, and Samir would fall into the same trap, trying to explain, trying to prove he was right, trying to fix the image they were distorting. And it wrecked him, until one day his therapist asked him, "Why is being misunderstood such a deep fear for you?" And boom, it hit him. It came from childhood. He grew up with a father who never listened, who always assumed the worst. And now, every time someone misunderstood him, that childhood pain came rushing back like a flood. That was the day Samir stopped blaming the toxic people and started healing himself, and you've got to do the same. Because listen, it's not your fault you were wounded, but it is your responsibility to heal. Toxic people don't create your wounds, they just locate them. They use your past against you. That's why healing isn't optional, it's survival. Here are some common triggers toxic people use. Fear of abandonment, they threaten to leave, withdraw affection, make you beg. Fear of failure, they remind you of your mistakes, make you feel like you'll never be enough. Need for approval, they praise you, then withhold it, so you work harder for their attention. Low self, Worth they criticize and compare until you feel unlovable. You ever wonder why you keep reacting to the same kind of people over and over again? It's because you're not dealing with them, you're dealing with your past through them. And that cycle won't break until you break it from the inside. Here's how you start healing. Identify your triggers. What words, tones, behaviors set you off? Write them down, name them. If you can name it, you can tame it. Trace them to the root. Ask yourself, where did this start? Go back. Was it your parents' school? A past relationship. Understanding the origin gives you control. Challenge the belief. You believe you're not enough, that no one will love you unless you people. Please, that conflict means rejection. Challenge those beliefs with truth. You are enough. You are loved. You are allowed to say no and still be respected. Use your trigger as a teacher. Next time you feel emotionally hijacked, pause. Don't react. Ask, what is this moment trying to teach me about myself? That's how growth happens. Rewire your responses. Instead of reacting with anger, shame, or fear, respond with calm, clarity, and confidence. This takes time, but it's worth every second. And Janny, don't be afraid to get help. Go to therapy, read, journal, surround yourself with people who speak life into you, not fear. Healing isn't a solo sport. Let me hit you with this truth. The more healed you are, the harder you are to manipulate. Because healed people don't chase validation. Healed people don't beg to be loved. Healed people don't over-explain. They know who they are, and that's all they need. Remember, toxic people don't thrive in strong minds. They thrive in unhealed hearts. So heal, not for them, for you, for your peace, for your future. Because once those wounds become wisdom, they can never use them against you again. Here's something nobody tells you when you're growing up. You don't always have to respond. You don't always have to defend yourself. You don't have to prove a thing. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make in the face of toxicity is one wordless, unshakable choice. Silence. See, toxic people feed off reactions. They live for your anger. They crave your breakdown. They thrive when they know they've gotten under your skin. Because your reaction, it gives them validation. It says, you still have power over me. But when you go silent, truly silent, not in a passive-aggressive way, but in a, you don't deserve my energy kind of way, that's when they lose control. That's when the game ends. Let's get something clear. Silence isn't weakness. It's not retreat. It's not surrender. Silence is strategy. Silence is discipline. Silence is when your soul says, I am no longer available for nonsense. Think about it. You ever notice how the most powerful people in the room are usually the quietest? They don't bark to prove their bite. They don't scream to prove their strength. They listen, they observe, and when they speak, the world listens. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man named Hassan. He was ambitious, humble, and kind, but every time he tried to step forward in life, there was someone close to him dragging him down with toxic jabs. You think you're better than us now. You're wasting your time. You're nothing without us. At first, he argued back, tried to prove his intentions, tried to justify his dreams, but no matter how much truth he spoke, the attacks kept coming, until one day Hassan chose silence, no replies, no defenses, no more trying to explain. He didn't fight back, he just got focused. He built his life in peace with no noise, no drama, and when he finally succeeded, the same people who mocked him fell silent. Because silence starves toxicity. It's like oxygen, take it away, and the fire dies. Now, don't get it twisted. Silence doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means disengaging from the drama, not the truth. If someone crosses a line, you speak up once with clarity and confidence. But if they keep playing games, you don't play along. You ever seen a lion respond to every barking dog? No, the lion walks, the dogs bark. The jungle knows the difference. That's who you are, Janny. You don't need to lower your energy just to prove a point to people who thrive on chaos. Here's what silence does. It resets your nervous system. It protects your peace. It makes toxic people uncomfortable because they can't read you. It gives you clarity to respond when necessary, not when triggered. Sometimes the greatest clapback isn't rage, it's success. Sometimes the greatest insult isn't revenge, it's indifference. You want to get under a toxic person's skin, smile, stay calm, walk away, do not explain. Because when they realize their words don't shake you, when they realize they can't bait you into reacting, that's when their power over you disappears like dust. Let me give you a practical tool. The next time someone says something cruel, sarcastic, or baiting, pause. Take a deep breath, and instead of replying, say this in your mind: "This isn't worth my peace," and walk. Not every battle is yours to fight. Some battles are distractions. Some arguments are traps. And some people, they just want an audience, not a resolution. You're not a performer in their circus. You're the architect of your life. So don't waste bricks building bridges to people who only want to burn them. Silence is your shield. Silence is your boundary. Silence is your weapon. And the best part, silence doesn't just protect you, it teaches you. Because in silence, you hear your own thoughts. In silence, you feel your intuition. In silence, you remember who you are. So the next time a toxic person tries to provoke you, don't engage, don't explain, don't lower your energy, just rise in silence, with power, with peace, with purpose. Because nothing confuses a manipulator more than a person they can no longer control.